March 15, 1943, Tunis, Tunisia. Oberst Heinrich Müller lowered his binoculars and smirked. His weathered face, bronzed by 2 years in North Africa, twisted with contempt. "Look at this," Müller said, tossing the intelligence report onto the desk. "The Americans think they can supply entire divisions by air." Hauptmann Karl Schneider, his operations officer, laughed sharply. "They cannot even coordinate a proper ground assault, and now they imagine themselves masters of aerial logistics." Major Franz Weber, chief intelligence officer for the sector, shifted uncomfortably. "Herr Oberst, the production numbers from the United States are concerning. Their aircraft manufacturing has increased substantially." But Müller waved him off. "Numbers without quality mean nothing, Weber. We destroyed 90 British tanks at Gazala with 20 Panzers. At Kasserine Pass, we routed an entire American division with a single Kampfgruppe. At El Getter, their coordination was so poor they retreated after minimal contact." He leaned back, satisfied. The mathematics were undeniable. Superior German training, tactics, and equipment would overcome any numerical advantage. What Müller didn't know, what none of them could have known as they studied maps in that command post, was that American aerial resupply would deliver 14,000 tons of cargo to Allied forces in Sicily within 60 days. The numbers would become staggering. Production ratios of 12:1, transport aircraft numbering 2,847 operational units, losses under 2% per mission. The laughter in that North African command post would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 850,000 Axis casualties in the Mediterranean theater. The German command structure had every reason for confidence. Their recent victories painted a clear picture of Allied incompetence. At Sidi Bou Zid, February 14-15, 1943, they destroyed 103 American tanks while losing only 20. At Kasserine Pass, February 1922, they inflicted 6,500 casualties while sustaining fewer than 2,000. At Gafsa, their counterattack forced American withdrawal with losses of 18:1. The Luftwaffe maintained local air superiority, shooting down Allied aircraft at ratios approaching 3:1 in certain engagements. German 88 anti-aircraft guns proved devastating against both air and ground targets, destroying British Hurricanes and American P-40s with mechanical efficiency. The Afrika Korps had perfected desert warfare through 3 years of combat experience. Their equipment specifications told a compelling story. The Messerschmitt Bf 109G mounted a 30mm cannon and two 13 machine guns. Maximum speed, 621 kilometers per hour. Service ceiling, 12,000 meters. Rate of climb, 17 meters per second. The Focke-Wulf FW 190 carried 4 20mm cannons and two 13 machine guns. Maximum speed, 652 kilometers per hour. Combat radius, 800 kilometers. These aircraft had dominated European skies for 3 years. The Junkers Ju-52 transport, while slow at 265 kilometers per hour, carried 2,500 kilograms of cargo and operated reliably under harsh conditions. German logistics networks, refined through years of European conquest, moved supplies with methodical precision. Recent American failures reinforced German confidence. Operation Torch, November 1942, had been chaotic. Soldiers landed on wrong beaches. Communication failures caused friendly fire incidents. At Casablanca, naval gunfire killed 462 American personnel due to coordination errors. In Algeria, logistical breakdowns left divisions without ammunition for 6 days. Intelligence reports documented American inexperience. Units advancing without flank security, tanks operating without infantry support, artillery firing on their own positions. At Sidi Bou Zid, American commanders positioned tanks on forward slopes, perfect targets for German 88s. The 1st Armored Division lost 2/3 of its tanks in 3 days. General Lloyd Fredendall commanded from a headquarters 70 miles behind the front, issuing contradictory orders that created chaos rather than coordination. The Americans seemed perpetually surprised by basic military realities. Oberst Müller's combat record justified his confidence. He had commanded a panzer battalion during the French campaign, 1940, achieving a kill ratio of 23:1 near Sedan. In Operation Barbarossa, his unit destroyed 89 Soviet tanks while losing 11. At Gazala, May-June 1942, his Kampfgruppe eliminated 2 British armored regiments. He wore the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. His tactical innovations, particularly the use of anti-tank screens with mobile reserves, appeared in Wehrmacht training manuals. Officers throughout the Afrika Korps studied his methods. His assessment of American capabilities drew from direct combat observation, not prejudice. He had faced their armor at Kasserine and found it wanting. Their tactics were textbook rigid, their coordination amateur. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Major Franz Weber had compiled concerning data. American aircraft production had increased from 6,000 units in 1940 to 47,836 units in 1942. Aluminum production reached 834,000 tons annually, compared to Germany's 234,000 tons. American shipyards launched 746 merchant vessels in 1942, totaling 8,089,732 gross tons. Each Liberty ship took 42 days to construct, and production was accelerating. Weber's intelligence network reported that Willow Run, Michigan, would begin producing B-24 bombers at 1 per hour by mid-1943. Ford Motor Company had converted automobile production lines to aircraft manufacturing in 8 months, but Mueller dismissed these figures. Production numbers mean nothing if pilots lack training and factories build inferior designs, he said. Quality defeats quantity. History proves this. Schneider nodded agreement. The Soviets built thousands of T-34s, yet we destroyed them by the hundreds. Weber filed his reports and said nothing more. Lieutenant Otto Braun, a Luftwaffe pilot with 16 confirmed kills, had engaged American aircraft twice. At Kasserine, February 20, he shot down 2 P-38 Lightnings in 4 minutes. They flew predictably, he wrote in his diary. Good aircraft, poor tactics. They maintained formation even under attack, making them easy targets. At Mezana, March 9, his Staffel intercepted a formation of B-17s. Heavy defensive armament, he noted, but they refused to break formation. We attacked from below, 3 bombers destroyed in 8 minutes. Braun considered American aircraft well-built but poorly employed. Their pilots seemed trained for peacetime flying, not combat. They lacked the aggressive maneuvering that characterized Luftwaffe tactics. German pilots had honed their skills in Spain, Poland, France, and Russia. They knew how to exploit weaknesses. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Willow Run, Michigan, February 1943. Charles Sorensen walked the factory floor as another B-24 Liberator rolled toward completion. This single facility produced 8 bombers daily. Every 3 hours, another aircraft emerged from the assembly line, wings attached, engines tested, ready for delivery. The building stretched a mile long, covering 3,500,000 square feet under one roof. Ford Motor Company had transformed automobile manufacturing into aircraft production. In November 1940, America produced just 231 military aircraft monthly. By January 1942, production reached 2,100 monthly. By March 1943, Willow Run alone was producing 240 B-24s monthly, more than the entire Italian aircraft industry. This single facility was producing more than Germany's 3 largest bomber plants combined. The production progression told an extraordinary story. Initial plans called for 1 aircraft every 2 weeks. Engineers believed automotive assembly techniques couldn't apply to complex aircraft. Charles Sorensen proved them wrong. He broke aircraft construction into subassemblies, creating specialized stations. Workers installed nose sections while others attached wings. Engines arrived pre-tested from separate facilities. Every component standardized, every process timed, every motion economized. Mary Patricia Thompson, previously a seamstress in Detroit, now operated a riveting gun, installing 4,200 rivets daily on B-24 fuselage sections. Each rivet took 3.2 seconds to place and secure. She completed 68 panels per shift, working with 5 other women on her team. They produced more fuselage sections in 1 8-hour shift than a German aircraft factory produced in 3 days. Thompson earned $45 weekly, double her seamstress wages. She had never seen an aircraft before entering the plant. Training took 11 days. Her supervisor, a former Ford quality inspector, checked every 100th rivet. Rejection rate, under 0.3%. The work was repetitive, loud, and exhausting, but Thompson knew her rivets held bombers together, and those bombers were flying to Europe. She produced more aircraft components in 1 shift than entire Axis facilities managed in a week. Robert Washington, from Birmingham, Alabama, operated a wing assembly jig that positioned and secured the main spar, ribs, and skin of B-24 wings. His station's daily output was 12 complete wing assemblies. Each assembly required precise alignment, tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. Washington had worked as a mechanic before the war. Now his single station's daily output exceeded the entire monthly wing production of Romania's aircraft industry. The jig he operated was a masterpiece of industrial engineering: hydraulically actuated clamps, laser-aligned positioning guides, automatic drilling templates. Wings that once took skilled craftsmen 8 days to build now took 45 minutes. Washington's team included 2 white workers from Kentucky and 1 Mexican-American from Texas. They worked together without incident, focused on production numbers. His supervisor tracked output on a chalkboard: daily goals, weekly totals, monthly records. They exceeded quotas every month. Henry Knudsen, $1-a-year man from General Motors, managed production scheduling across 15 assembly stations. He coordinated deliveries from 1,550 supplier companies, providing 30,000 separate components. Engines arrived from Pratt & Whitney at Hartford. Propellers came from Curtis Electric in Ohio. Radios from Bendix in New Jersey. Oxygen systems from Air Reduction Company in New York. Knudsen had revolutionized inventory management, implementing just-in-time delivery before the term existed. Components arrived at specific stations within hours of installation, eliminating storage requirements. The result: production flow that never stopped. Willow Run operated 24 hours daily, 3 shifts, 7 days weekly. Aircraft emerged continuously. Americans discarded 340 pounds of aluminum scraps daily at Willow Run alone. Germany allocated 180 pounds monthly for its entire fighter production. The waste from a single shift at one American facility exceeded what the Luftwaffe received for building 60 Bf-109s. Workers threw away drill bits that German machinists sharpened and reused 50 times. End-of-shift cleanup removed metal shavings that German factories collected, melted, and recycled. The cafeteria discarded more beef daily, approximately 890 pounds from unsold portions, than Luftwaffe bases in Tunisia received monthly. Food waste included 240 gallons of milk, 180 pounds of potatoes, 95 pounds of bread. Berlin factories allocated similar quantities to 300 workers for a week. The steel bins used to collect aluminum scrap at Willow Run weighed more than the monthly aluminum allocation for Germany's entire Junkers transport aircraft program. The waste represented abundance beyond Axis comprehension. The waste from quality control exceeded enemy production. Willow Run rejected 2.3% of completed aircraft for minor defects, panel alignment issues, paint imperfections, gauge malfunctions. These aircraft went to training squadrons or modification centers. Germany couldn't afford to reject functional aircraft for cosmetic issues. Americans tested engines to destruction, running them at maximum power until failure to establish reliability baselines. Germany ran engines directly from factory to aircraft. American test pilots flew each bomber before acceptance. German bombers went to operational units with factory flight tests only. Workers threw away tools that dulled, precision drill bits, riveting guns with worn teeth, calibration gauges showing minor drift. German factories had tool sharpening stations where skilled workers restored worn equipment. The 47 tons of metal waste generated monthly at Willow Run could have built Germany's entire monthly production of Ju-52 transport aircraft. If German workers had the machine tools, trained personnel, and organizational infrastructure that Americans possessed. Major Franz Weber reviewed intelligence reports from neutral attachés in America. One single facility in Michigan was producing more heavy bombers monthly than Germany's entire bomber force. He compiled the data. Willow Run production: 240 B-24s monthly by March 1943, projected 480 monthly by December 1943. Douglas Aircraft, Long Beach, 180 C-47 transports monthly. Boeing, Seattle, 362 B-17s monthly. Total American 4-engine bomber production, 782 monthly. German 4-engine bomber production ceased. The Heinkel He-177 program had failed due to engine problems. Germany was building twin-engine medium bombers, Heinkel He-111s and Junkers Ju-88s, at roughly 850 monthly. But these aircraft lacked range and payload for strategic missions. Weber's report warned, American production will achieve air superiority through numerical overwhelming force within 12 months. His report was filed and forgotten. April 18, 1943, south of Mezana, Tunisia, 8:47 hours. Lieutenant Otto Braun was conducting a routine reconnaissance patrol when he spotted them, 48 cargo aircraft flying in tight formation at 3,200 meters altitude. C-47 Skytrans, heavily loaded, escorted by 36 P-38 Lightning fighters. At 8:49 hours, Braun radioed position and began his attack. At 8:51 hours, he closed to 800 meters and opened fire. His 30 cannon shells struck a C-47's port engine. The engine exploded, trailing black smoke. The transport fell out of formation. At 8:52 hours, tracers ripped past Braun's canopy. He broke hard left. A P-38 was on him, closing rapidly. He dove for speed, pulling out at 1,000 meters. The P-38 stayed with him. At 8:53 hours, his wingman radioed, 6 P-38s high rear. Braun's squadron was outnumbered 3-1. At 8:54 hours, Braun's wingman, Feldwebel Klaus Richter, was destroyed. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 22 seconds. Kill time, 22 seconds. The P-38 that killed him fired a 3-second burst. Cannon shells shredded Richter's cockpit. His Bf-109 disintegrated in midair. At 8:56 hours, another Bf-109 went down. Kill time, 18 seconds. The P-38s worked in pairs, one forcing defensive maneuvers while the second attacked from the quarter. At 8:57 hours, a third Bf-109 destroyed. Kill time, 31 seconds. This pilot attempted a head-on pass against a P-38. The American aircraft's concentrated firepower, 120 cannon and 4.50 caliber machine guns, tore the Bf-109's wing off. At 8:59 hours, Braun damaged a P-38, but it remained airborne, heading back toward Allied lines. At 900 hours, a fourth Bf-109 fell. Kill time, 26 seconds. Total engagement duration, 13 minutes 8 seconds. German losses, 4 Bf-109s destroyed, 1 damaged. Pilots killed, 4. American losses, 1 C-47 transport destroyed, 1 P-38 damaged. The cargo aircraft continued to their destination. Kill ratio, 4:1 in American favor. The ammunition expended in this 13-minute engagement exceeded the monthly allocation for the entire Luftwaffe base at Mezana, 800 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition, 1,240 rounds of 20 cannon shells. Braun landed at 9:27 hours, shaken. His squadron had lost 4 aircraft to American fighters they had previously considered inferior. "They didn't fly like before," he reported. "Aggressive tactics, good coordination. They hunted us." The P-38s had not defended the transports passively. They had attacked aggressively, forcing the Bf-109s into defensive maneuvers. Braun's kill total remained 16. He would add only 3 more before his death in June. Oberst Mueller read Braun's report with skepticism. 4 aircraft lost to fighters escorting cargo planes. Were they drunk? He summoned Braun to headquarters. "Explain this disaster." Braun stood at attention. "Herr Oberst, the American pilots employed new tactics. They worked in pairs, covering each other. When we focused on one, his wingman attacked. Their aircraft outperformed ours at altitude. Their armament was devastating." Mueller studied the report. 4 fighters lost, 1 transport destroyed. This was unacceptable. "The P-38 has been in service for 2 years, he said. "Why are we only now discovering its capabilities?" Braun had no answer. The mathematics had shifted, but Mueller refused to accept the implications. Intelligence dismissed the engagement as an anomaly. The P-38s must have been flown by experienced pilots, perhaps British veterans operating American aircraft. The loss ratio couldn't represent standard performance. German fighters had dominated Allied aircraft for years. 4 losses in a single engagement meant pilot error or mechanical failure, not American superiority. Major Weber compiled reports from other engagements. April 5, Gafsa sector, 2 Bf-109s lost, 1 P-40 destroyed. April 12, near Sfax, 3 FW-190s lost, 2 Spitfires destroyed. April 15, near Sousse, 4 Bf-109s lost, no Allied losses. The pattern was unmistakable. American and British fighters were achieving air superiority. Weber's reports documented declining Luftwaffe effectiveness. His warnings went unheeded. Major Franz Weber reported to General der Flieger Hans-Eugen von Arnim, commanding Luftwaffe forces in Tunisia. American fighter production now exceeds 2,400 aircraft monthly. Training facilities in the United States graduate 5,000 pilots monthly. The Allies are replacing losses faster than we inflict them. Current trends indicate complete Allied air superiority by June 1943. Weber included production comparisons. American single-engine fighter production, 1,847 monthly. German single-engine fighter production, 916 monthly. American twin-engine fighter production, 478 monthly. German twin-engine fighter production, 284 monthly. A single American fighter factory in California, North American Aviation, exceeded total German fighter production. Von Arnim filed the report with others predicting Allied numerical superiority. Numbers alone didn't win wars. Quality and training mattered more. This belief would persist until the sky filled with Allied aircraft. American production exceeded German comprehension. At Republic Aviation, Long Island, P-47 Thunderbolt production reached 387 aircraft monthly. At Bell Aircraft, Buffalo, P-39 Airacobra production was 441 monthly. At Curtiss-Wright, Columbus, Ohio, P-40 Warhawk production was 518 monthly. At Lockheed, Burbank, California, P-38 Lightning production was 295 monthly. Total American fighter production, 2,847 monthly by April 1943. This single month's production exceeded Germany's entire fighter force. A single American factory exceeded entire German production. Republic Aviation's P-47 output alone matched 42% of German fighter production. The mathematics were becoming clear. They tried concentrating forces. The Americans dispersed them. They attempted high-altitude interception. American bombers flew higher with better oxygen systems. They flew low-level attacks against airfields. American anti-aircraft defenses, equipped with proximity-fused shells and radar aiming, destroyed them at rates exceeding 30%. They used experienced aces. American numerical superiority overwhelmed individual skill. They focused on bombers, ignoring escorts. The escorts destroyed them. They engaged escorts. The bombers reached their targets. Every tactical adjustment met an American counter. At Kasserine, German tank tactics had succeeded because they concentrated firepower at weak points. In the air, there were no weak points. Allied aircraft covered every sector. German pilots reported seeing continuous streams of American aircraft. The sky belonged to the Allies. May 7, 1943, Cape Bon Peninsula, Tunisia, 14:15 hours. Lieutenant Otto Braun led a staffel of 8 Bf-109s against a formation of 40 B-25 Mitchell bombers escorted by 60 P-38 fighters. The odds were impossible, but orders were absolute. Stop the bombers. At 14:17 hours, Braun's formation engaged. At 14:19 hours, the first Bf-109 fell. Kill time, 14 seconds. 2 P-38s attacked simultaneously from different angles. The German pilot had no escape. At 14:20 hours, a second Bf-109 destroyed. Kill time, 9 seconds. Head-on attack against P-38. The Americans' concentrated firepower won. At 14:21 hours, a third Bf-109 went down. Kill time, 19 seconds. Caught in a climbing turn, the German fighter stalled. The P-38 pilot anticipated the maneuver. At 14:22 hours, Braun damaged one P-38, which withdrew from combat but remained airborne. At 14:23 hours, a fourth Bf-109 destroyed. Kill time, 11 seconds. The German pilot attempted to break through to the bombers. 4 P-38s intercepted him. He never reached the formation. At 14:24 hours, a fifth Bf-109 fell. Kill time, 16 seconds. The mathematics were brutal, 8 German fighters against 60 American fighters. Courage couldn't overcome such odds. At 14:25 hours, Braun ordered withdrawal. His remaining 3 aircraft dove for the deck, using terrain to break contact. The bombers continued unmolested to their target. At 14:26 hours, German anti-aircraft gunners reported the bombers overhead. At 14:28 hours, bombs fell on the last German supply depot in Tunisia. Total engagement duration, 11 minutes. Enemy losses, 5 Bf-109s destroyed, 3 pilots killed, 2 captured. American losses, 1 P-38 damaged, pilot safe. Kill ratio, 5-0. The ammunition expended in this engagement exceeded the monthly allocation for 3 Luftwaffe bases, 28 400 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition, 2,180 rounds of 20 cannon shells. American bombers dropped 80 tons of ordnance on the supply depot. That ordnance represented more explosive capacity than the German army in Tunisia had available for all artillery. The fuel consumed by American aircraft in this single mission, 18,400 gallons, exceeded the weekly allocation for German ground forces in the entire sector. Braun landed with his 2 surviving wingmen. His squadron had been effectively destroyed. 8 aircraft reduced to 3 in 11 minutes. Major Franz Weber received reports from all sectors. The pattern was undeniable. German forces were being systematically annihilated from the air. Allied aircraft operated with impunity. Luftwaffe fighters couldn't challenge Allied air superiority. He compiled final statistics. German aircraft losses, April 1, May 7, 1943, Tunisia sector. 247 aircraft destroyed, 198 pilots killed or captured. Allied losses, 89 aircraft destroyed, 47 pilots killed or captured. Loss ratio, 2:8:1, but these numbers understated reality. Allied aircraft were being replaced immediately. German aircraft weren't being replaced at all. The Luftwaffe in Tunisia was being destroyed faster than it could be reinforced. Weber presented his analysis to von Arnim. We have lost air superiority. Ground operations cannot succeed without air cover. American production guarantees continued Allied numerical advantage. Recommendation: immediate withdrawal before complete encirclement. Von Arnim read the report. Withdrawal was forbidden. They would fight. Oberst Müller still refused to accept the implications. Local setbacks don't change strategic realities, he insisted. The Luftwaffe will concentrate forces, will regain air superiority through better tactics. He reviewed loss reports, searching for explanations. Pilot error, mechanical failures, superior enemy numbers in specific engagements, but never superior enemy capability. Never the possibility that American pilots had become skilled, American aircraft effective, American numbers overwhelming. He lectured his staff. The Americans have numerical advantage, nothing more. 1 German pilot equals 3 Americans. Our equipment remains superior. Hauptmann Schneider nodded agreement. Major Weber said nothing. Lieutenant Braun, summoned to attend the briefing, remembered 5 comrades dead in 11 minutes. The mathematics were clear to those who flew combat. May 12, 1943. Cap Bonn, Tunisia, 10:47 hours. Oberst Heinrich Müller personally led a convoy of supply trucks toward German forward positions. Allied air superiority made daytime movement suicidal, but supplies were critically short. At 10:49 hours, Lookout spotted aircraft, 12 A-20 Havoc attack bombers approaching at low altitude. Müller ordered vehicles to scatter and troops to take cover. At 10:50 hours, the A-20s began their attack run. At 10:51 hours, the first truck exploded. Kill time, 4 seconds. Direct hit from 500-pound bomb. At 10:52 hours, 3 more trucks destroyed. Kill time per vehicle, 6, 8, 5 seconds respectively. The A-20s carried 6.50 caliber machine guns each, plus bombs. Their strafing runs shredded unarmored vehicles. At 10:53 hours, Müller's command vehicle was hit. A .50 caliber bullet penetrated the windshield, traveled through the cabin, and struck Müller in the chest. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 187 seconds. The convoy was destroyed in 7 minutes, 23 vehicles demolished, 48 personnel killed, 71 wounded. American losses, 0. The A-20s withdrew unmolested, facing no anti-aircraft fire. German flak ammunition was exhausted. Müller died believing German superiority would prevail, unable to comprehend how completely the mathematics had shifted. His conviction that quality defeated quantity persisted until the moment American quantity achieved qualitative superiority through industrial mass production. At 10:54 hours, German medics reached the command vehicle. Müller was already dead. Kill time from initial strike, 187 seconds. His body was recovered and later buried at the military cemetery in Tunis. His tactical innovations would be studied in post-war military academies, but his strategic miscalculation, dismissing American productive capacity, would become a cautionary tale. Hauptmann Karl Schneider assumed command. The situation was hopeless. Allied forces controlled every approach. German forces in Tunisia were cut off, surrounded, starving, and without air cover. American and British aircraft attacked any movement. At 1100 hours, Schneider received orders, continue resistance. At 11:30 hours, Allied artillery began bombardment. At 1200 hours, Allied infantry advanced. By 1500 hours, Schneider's unit had been overrun. He surrendered along with 286 surviving personnel. In 6 hours, a battalion-strength German unit ceased to exist. American ammunition expenditure: 47,000 rounds of rifle ammunition, 8,900 rounds of machine gun ammunition, 840 artillery shells. This single engagement's ammunition expenditure exceeded the monthly allocation for an entire German division. Total Axis forces surrendered in Tunisia, 275,000 personnel. Equipment captured or destroyed, 250 tanks, 2,330 artillery pieces, 70,000 vehicles. The campaign ended May 13, 1943. German and Italian forces in North Africa ceased to exist as combat-effective units. The Mediterranean became an allied lake. What had seemed mathematically certain in March Axis superiority based on combat experience and tactical excellence had dissolved under overwhelming Allied material superiority. Müller's confidence had been mathematically sound based on tactical realities. What he failed to comprehend was that strategy trumped tactics when industrial capacity enabled numerical superiority of such magnitude that tactical excellence became irrelevant. November 1943. Allied POW Interrogation Center, Algiers. Major Franz Weber sat across from British and American intelligence officers. His testimony was methodical, precise, statistical. We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. American production of transport aircraft alone exceeded our entire Air Force. A single American factory, Willow Run, produced more heavy bombers monthly than Germany's entire aircraft industry. The Douglas Aircraft Plant in Long Beach manufactured C-47 transports at rates exceeding our total production of all aircraft types. Their productive capacity was beyond our comprehension. We calculated pre-war American industrial potential as approximately 3 times German capacity. We were wrong. It was 12 times our capacity, and they mobilized it more effectively than we imagined possible. Weber provided specific comparisons. American aluminum production, 920,000 tons annually by 1943. German aluminum production, 243,000 tons annually. American steel production, 89 million tons annually. German steel production, 29 million tons annually. American machine tool production exceeded our entire industrial machinery inventory. They didn't just outproduce us. They revolutionized production itself. Ford's Willow Run employed 42,000 workers producing 8 B-24 bombers daily. Our largest aircraft factory employed 8,900 workers producing 3 bombers daily. The mathematics were devastating. Americans achieved 400% greater productivity per worker. Weber continued, the waste alone exceeded our production. Americans discarded more aluminum scrap from a single factory's daily operations than we allocated to our entire fighter program monthly. Their soldiers threw away ammunition that our troops rationed. Their cafeterias served food that exceeded our military rations. When I first reviewed these reports, I thought they were propaganda. They were accurate. American abundance transformed war from a contest of tactics to a contest of industrial capacity. We brought precision to mass production. They brought mass production to precision warfare. Lieutenant Otto Braun, also captured, provided tactical testimony. I saw their fighters evolve from novice to expert within 6 months. Early 1943, American pilots flew predictably, maintaining formation even under attack. By May 1943, they employed sophisticated tactics, decoys, coordinated attacks, aggressive pursuit. Their numerical advantage allowed them to learn through combat experience without catastrophic losses. When we lost a pilot, we lost irreplaceable expertise. When they lost a pilot, he was replaced within weeks by another trained pilot. Their training program graduated 5,000 pilots monthly. Ours graduated 800. The Americans could afford losses. We couldn't. Additional captured officers provided similar testimonies. Oberleutnant Dietrich Hoffmann, captured at Cap Bon. We brought swords to a gunfight that turned into an artillery barrage. Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. We operated at 110% capacity, scraping together resources, while they operated at 60% capacity with reserves waiting. They could lose 5 aircraft to our 1 and still achieve air superiority through replacement rates. Hauptmann Werner Schmidt, shot down May 10. They could lose 500 aircraft monthly and replace them in 2 weeks. We lost 200 aircraft monthly and couldn't replace them at all. The mathematics were brutal. Their production exceeded our losses by factors we couldn't match. Major Weber provided final production statistics stated by enemy intelligence. American aircraft production 1943, 85,898 aircraft total. German aircraft production 1943, 24,807 aircraft total. Single American factory, Willow Run, produced 4,476 B-24 bombers in 1943. Entire German bomber production 1943, 4,649 bombers total. The disparity was systematic. American automotive industry alone, just Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, exceeded Germany's entire industrial capacity. When they converted to war production, they brought manufacturing expertise that we lacked. Assembly line techniques, standardized components, specialized tooling, time-motion studies. They applied industrial management to warfare and overwhelmed us through systematic efficiency. Hauptmann Schneider, who had commanded after Müller's death, provided the starkest testimony. This wasn't combat. This was systematic annihilation. We faced enemies who possessed unlimited ammunition, unlimited fuel, unlimited replacement aircraft. We calculated engagement outcomes based on tactical variables, pilot skill, aircraft performance, numerical advantage. But when the enemy's numerical advantage reached 10, 1, 15, 1, 20, 1, tactics became irrelevant. When we destroyed 5 of their aircraft, they arrived with 10 more the next day. When they destroyed one of ours, it was never replaced. The mathematics guaranteed our defeat regardless of tactical performance. Willow Run, Michigan, December 1943. Production hit 480 B-24s monthly. Americans discarded 12,400 pounds of aluminum scraps daily. This waste exceeded Germany's monthly allocation for its entire bomber program. Workers threw away riveting guns with dulled teeth. German workers sharpened and reused similar tools until they broke. The cafeteria served 34,000 meals daily, discarding 1,200 pounds of food waste. This exceeded weekly rations for an entire German division. Testing procedures destroyed engines to establish failure parameters. Germany couldn't afford destructive testing. Every engine went directly to aircraft. Quality control rejected aircraft for minor cosmetic flaws. These rejected aircraft had lower defect rates than standard German production aircraft. The waste represented abundance that Axis powers couldn't comprehend. At Republic Aviation, Long Island, workers discarded steel shavings that weighed more than the monthly steel allocation for Italy's entire aircraft industry. At Douglas Aircraft, Long Beach, aluminum scrap bins contained more metal than Romania's aircraft factories received annually. At Boeing, Seattle, rejected components, parts that didn't meet specifications, exceeded in quantity the total production of Hungary's entire aviation sector. American industrial abundance generated waste that exceeded Axis production. This wasn't inefficiency. This was the luxury of having so much productive capacity that perfection was affordable. At North American Aviation, California, workers' cafeteria waste alone, food discarded from meals, exceeded in calories the daily rations for German soldiers in Russia. The coffee consumed by workers in a single shift contained more calories than the ersatz coffee allocated to Berlin civilians for a month. The waste bins in one American factory contained more usable materials than entire Axis nations allocated to military production. This abundance extended beyond aircraft to every aspect of American war production. Ships built in 42 days when Germany required 6 months. Tanks produced at rates of 400 monthly when Germany produced 180. Artillery shells manufactured at rates exceeding 2 million monthly when Germany produced 890,000. Every factory exceeded enemy production by factors that defied comprehension. Chrysler's tank plant, Detroit, produced 400 M4 Sherman tanks monthly. Germany's entire tank production, 180 monthly. This single facility produced more than double Germany's total tank output. Ford's aircraft engine plant produced 4,800 engines monthly. Germany's entire aircraft engine production, 2,900 monthly. One factory exceeded an entire nation's industrial capacity. The mathematics were undeniable. American industry had achieved productive capacity that no European power could match. Democratic free labor, properly organized and equipped, exceeded totalitarian slave labor through systematic efficiency. Major Weber had warned about this. His intelligence reports filed and ignored documented American productive expansion. A single American automotive company, he had written in February 1943, employs more workers than our entire aircraft industry. When they convert to war production, they bring management expertise, tooling capacity, and trained workforce that we cannot match. Their productive potential exceeds ours by an order of magnitude. He had calculated ratios, compiled statistics, predicted outcomes. His predictions were accurate. Germany's leadership dismissed them as impossible. How could democracies, weak and decadent, outproduce the disciplined Reich? The answer was demonstrated in factories across America. Free workers, properly motivated and compensated, with modern equipment and efficient management, achieved productivity that slave labor could never match. The lesson proven by aerial supply operations and overwhelming fighter superiority demonstrated that industrial capacity determined modern war outcomes. The Germans had superior tactics, experienced pilots, and excellent aircraft designs. The Americans had superior production, systematic training, and unlimited replacement capacity. Industrial abundance buried tactical excellence under sheer weight of numbers. Democratic nations, when mobilized, possessed productive capacity that totalitarian regimes couldn't match. Free workers outproduced slaves. Market-driven efficiency exceeded command-driven allocation. The assembly line, perfected in automobile plants, revolutionized warfare when applied to aircraft production. Free peoples outproduced authoritarian regimes because democracy enabled organizational flexibility that rigid hierarchies lacked. American factories adapted quickly, implementing suggestions from workers, engineers, and managers without bureaucratic approval chains. German factories operated under strict hierarchical control, requiring high-level approval for minor modifications. The result? American productivity increased 400% during wartime, while German productivity increased only 60%. Innovation came from shop floors in Detroit as often as from engineering offices, creating continuous improvement impossible in command economies. The cargo aircraft that Germans mocked, they think they can supply armies by air, delivered 4,500,000 tons of supplies to Allied forces 1943–1945. The B-24 bombers rolling off assembly lines at rates that seemed impossible dropped 452,508 tons of bombs on European targets. The P-38 fighters that Braun encountered, initially dismissed as inferior, destroyed 1,890 German aircraft while achieving combat ratios exceeding 5:1. The mathematics didn't lie. American industrial capacity, mobilized and properly organized, exceeded Axis capacity so completely that tactical excellence became irrelevant against strategic superiority. March 15, 1943. Oberst Heinrich Müller had laughed at American aerial supply capabilities and fighter production. May 13, 1943. His body lay in a grave in Tunisia, killed by aircraft from factories he had dismissed as quantity without quality. Their mockery became history's most catastrophic miscalculation, measured in 850,000 Axis casualties in a theater they thought they controlled. Total Axis losses in the Mediterranean, 1940–1943, 620,000 captured, 230,000 killed. American production, 85,898 aircraft in 1943 alone. German production, 24,807 aircraft. Single American factory output, 4,476 bombers. Entire Axis bomber production, 6,200 aircraft. The lesson remains: dismissing democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace, or underestimating free people's productive capacity because they value individual liberty over collective mobilization, invites catastrophic miscalculation. Free workers, properly organized and equipped, outproduce slaves. Democratic coordination exceeds authoritarian command when industrial capacity becomes the determining variable. Tactical excellence matters, but strategic abundance, the ability to produce, replace, and sustain forces at rates exceeding enemy attrition, determines outcomes when technological parity exists. The Germans saw parachutes falling and laughed. Those parachutes carried supplies that sustained armies, delivered by aircraft from factories that redefined industrial warfare. They weren't soldiers. They were the manifestation of productive capacity beyond Axis comprehension.